Welcome to Sex and Care Cafe. My name is Bartleby Ross.
Eve Monique, welcome.
Today we're going to be talking about the worldwide phenomenon of 50 Shades of Grey. A couple of years ago there was a trilogy of books that came out onto the market that took the world by storm, and particularly the USA. And this was a series of books that somehow captured the imagination, especially of the women of America. And for many, as reported, it was the first time that they had read about rough sex and BDSM and Kegel balls and whips and handcuffs and blindfolds.
Yeah, the whole scheme.
The whole scheme. So it was so successful, both in terms of book sales, but also in terms of the industry, the whole sex toy and BDSM equipment, the whole industry had this massive boost in sales.
And they didn't expect it. They were not prepared.
And that story that we heard about the Kegel balls?
Yeah, no Kegel balls to find in the whole United States, all sold out. 2 months.
Apparently the distributors were calling each other. They had so many calls for Kegel balls. They were trying to get Kegel balls from each other, and they were all completely sold out, and they were rabidly calling China.
And they were doing this, trying to figure out what happened.
Yeah, right. Well, subsequently, I mean, it's kind of really evened out, the whole sales thing, but there is a movie coming out next year, Eve, right, on February 13th, day before Valentine's Day.
Yeah, and what do you think about the story of it, the Cinderella fantasy of it?
Well, being a great lover of screenplay and writing and novels and all that, I've enjoyed thinking about 50 Shades of Grey, which is really a glorified Cinderella story.
Yeah,
and
a modern version.
Modern version with rope and blindfolds, basically, because it's the young innocent girl, right, who finds her prince, and this prince is the older, experienced Christian Grey.
With helicopter.
That, you know, and they fall in love, and, you know, in falling in love, she, you know, also transforms the prince as she is transformed by her prince. So it really is a fantasy story. Well, it's a fantasy story, but basically it's a Cinderella kind of syndrome. As many stories are, you know, they all go back to some of those original fairy tales.
Yeah, we all want that white horse, you know.
Yes, so let's talk about that.
The white horse.
Well, you know, somehow it feels like the way that the people were capturing their imagination with BDSM and rough sex and all that, they also were looking in terms of the fantasy of the young, innocent woman and the older, experienced, mature, you know, guy that sweeps you off your feet. But really, rough sex and BDSM and all of that, it's not
beyond that.
It's way beyond that.
Yeah. It's like, and you still think people even are exploring it, because the book's been out for a while, and then you try it, and you don't really know how to do all of that. You know?
And I think people have given up a lot. I think there was a moment, it was a wave.
There's a little thrill, you know, and then it's like, oh, where was my whip? Where did I put it?
Yes,
you know?
I think so. And I mean, speaking from experience, you know, one time out with whatever, handcuffs and a blindfold or a whip or rope, you know, the analogy I have, it's, look, we like to take a walk around the block, right? We enjoy a walk around the block, just outside of the house.
And it's healthy.
But it's a whole other thing, Eve, to go for a day-long hike.
Yeah.
Or even a weekend, or even like, you know, a 4-week vacation hiking.
Yes.
And, you know, to really enjoy that kind of activity, you need to spend some time learning about it, to explore it. You need to give, with you and your partner, you need to commit.
Yeah, and you need to go through the parts that are uncomfortable that are showing up in it, and not let them stop you to push through something into something more.
Yeah, and you know, one time it can be a good experience. It might not be a good experience because when you're first handling kind of new materials, whether that's a sex toy with your partner
Mm-hmm.
or like doing bondage, I mean, that in itself, if you're going to use rope, that's a serious investigation that takes some time for it to really pay dividends.
Yeah, and also, you know, if your relationship is not, if it has issues, those issues will all show up in doing that kind of activity.
So there's actually a lot of talking to be done. You know,
Yes,
it's the old adage, right?
you have to
Communication.
clear up your stuff because it's gonna, you know, if you have an issue about the kitchen or the laundry and you're getting spanked and suddenly you're getting pretty angry about it.
That's a really good point.
You know.
That's a really good point. And you need to talk before
Yes.
and you need to talk after.
Yes.
You know, and
because things will come up.
And things do come up.
And then there's also the part, there's, you know, the desensitization of the senses for people that you need.
Yes. Right. I mean, in this... Okay, let's just talk about that too, because people, I think, there's a lot of people out there that are in a way professionals in whatever, BDSM or, you know, using rope or using whips and all that. And you even get the feeling from like Christian Grey that, you know, he's very kind of well versed in it. But it takes a while to reach that point.
Yeah.
And sometimes those people that are more like professional in it, it can be a little intimidating. You know, if you look at the videos on YouTube or whatever, what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you know, one important aspect of this also is that, you know, some people are very far out. You know, they're at the end of the line in what they're doing, whether that's in dungeons or...
Mm-hmm.
And that can also be a little intimidating. But the important thing is that you yourself find a way that you're very comfortable with your partner, consenting.
Yes.
Yes, communicating.
Yeah, and talking and really like I don't know how to even say it because it actually goes quite has a depth to it what you have to go through, you know, to really start to clear enough out of your life to really be able to fully explore this area. And you don't need to be like, it doesn't need to be the young girl and the prince, you know, it's you and your life getting into something completely different and creating another part within your life for your partner, you know. It's a different experience. It's so nothing to do with your life.
Yes. And it's actually by entering, it's going through a doorway. And for many people, it's a new doorway. And for many people, when they do choose to go through that doorway, it opens up a whole new energy, a whole new level of passion, aliveness.
Yeah.
And that sensitivity is opening. Now, I know some people kind of maybe look at it with a little bit of judgment, and I know I've had to work through that myself, that, oh, I don't need that. I don't need spanking. I don't need the whips. I don't need the handcuffs. No, you can say you don't need it. However,
yeah, there is so much more to feel.
There is
but there is, like, life has a tendency to shut you down a little bit. You know, life stuff happens, and energetically, you can be a little shut down to yourself.
Right.
And to open back up, because that will happen through a new avenue of opening up. You know, you have to go through something in yourself.
That's right. And if you're sensitive with each other and with yourself, you really will go through something. And you really, I've definitely opened up. I mean, and some of this is a recent exploration. I've opened up to a new level of, I think it's aliveness, and I mean, just sexuality alone, the sexual energy, the potential. I found, I was surprised how much opened up by going into kind of spanking and whips and now rope. it's
energetic change that will happen.
That's right.
If you are willing for it to happen.
Yes.
And if you're not afraid to go through it, what takes it to get it.
And you have to go through something.
You have to go through
something. It is a journey.
It's not going to feel good. Maybe.
That's right. And maybe one of the good things maybe that is there in the books is you do feel those two characters going, Anastasia and Christian, they actually do go through some personal transformation.
Yes. And are you willing to go through some personal transformation to really have the benefit of it? Because without the willingness to have some transformation happen in yourself, you're not going to like it even. Because you stop what wants to happen.
Yes. That's right.
And the book is a good example of that.
Right.
And then are you willing to have that in your life?
Right.
You know, or, you know, you can also just go for the thrill of something. That's a different.
Which is, of course, what many people are doing in their lives. You know, they're thrill seeking.
Yeah, like the roller coasters. You know, they have to get more and more extreme to get the thrill. Or the movies, they go faster and louder because we are adapting to whatever goes on outside of ourselves, and it needs to be more and more to get the same thrill.
Right. And of course, the alternative is that you open up inside of yourself. Instead of shutting down because of all of that goes on in life, you keep opening up. You keep facing it, feeling it, and letting go so that you become more feeling, more sensitive. Yes. And then I tell you, at that level, you don't have to be spanked hard. It's almost like just almost the shadow of the whip. You know, just feeling that, like just resting on your skin is a massive turn on.
Yes, and then because you're so open, your senses are much more heightened, so you don't need the outside stimulant to be so harsh. And if you do, you can take it on another level, because there's a lot of different levels in that area. You know, then there's the pain level that takes you to the ecstasy, and that is another level of it. And then, you know.
I think we should have a whole hangout on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I think that's a good subject too, Eve.
Yeah.
Do you want to check in with Ken?
Yeah. Ken, what do you think? Have you read the book, or have you heard of it?
Haven't read the book and am totally blown away. I'm getting kind of a feeling of almost like the psychology of sex. It's okay. The first time that I ever had sex, there was fear. There were things I was scared about. It's the first time, and you look at cultures, many cultures. Okay, after you have sex the first time, that is a status, or that's something that transforms you. And you're talking about what I'm getting is a lot of transformation through use of bondage, ropes, whips, adding these other tools that I never thought about the implication of, by making myself more vulnerable and putting myself in a position that I'm not comfortable in, and working through that in a sexual encounter, in a sexual situation, the amount of transformation and growth that could occur from that. And it all makes sense because all of your senses are heightened. So if you're walking through that fear and you allow yourself to be vulnerable in that situation, I can see that really being a gateway for everything that I've experimented with was more like the roller coaster variety. You know, let's just spice things up. Let's make it exciting. But but I was also a lot younger then, and it's kind of like you said. It kind of went by the wayside. But now when I look at it, there's so much depth to this topic. I'm just blown away. I really am. It's really cool. I appreciate you sharing that insight today.
Yeah, you're welcome. And well, we're going to do several hangouts in this area, of course, with 50 Shades of Grey, like kind of coming in a big wave again with the movie coming out.
Mm-hmm.
And they also have made quite the industry
Yeah.
I mean, maybe you can.
Yeah, they have come out with a line of toys, from butt plugs to blindfolds to uh, Kegel balls to loops, condoms. They've got a great line. It's called 50 Shades of Grey, and go check it out. And what I mostly want to say is, don't let the fear stop you, and don't let the hesitation stop you, and don't let the unknown stop you. Get some books. Go to the store. There's a section in the store that has fetish and bondage books that you can read, and erotic novels about it, erotic stories around bondage. You know, those kind of things can give you ideas how to explore it. What does it look like? How am I going to use these things? The books are all there to teach you. You know, every subject matter in life, you're going to inform yourself if you're going to do it. If you're going to go on a bike, you're going to go learn about the bike, and you're going to inform yourself, you're going to practice, and then you're going to go bike. And then you go first go around the block, and then you go on the mountains, and you know, that's how you're going to do it with this area of sex. And
But
use our things, you know, use the things in the store to learn.
right, and your store that you're speaking of, that's right at sexandcare.com, right?
Yes.
Okay, so just go there, and I've been to your site before, but I've been reading the information articles. Is that right on shop?
Yes.
And then I can basically just browse.
Yes, you can browse.
And you also have a lot of books there on this topic, you say?
Yes, we do. Yeah. We have
Excellent.
lots of books. We have ropes, we have whips, we have every angle that you need to explore and learn. And
Yeah,
for
I think
any,
I'm gonna
you know, you can be 70 and want to explore this. Totally do.
take your advice. I'm gonna start with a couple of books and read into this further because it's definitely piqued my interest. And yeah, I really appreciate the information that you two bring to Sex and Care Cafe.
Yes. We love
I'm becoming
it. It's just nice to talk about sex.
Yeah, I'm becoming a regular. I've got my own little spot in the diner here.
You sure
I look forward to seeing you two at the cafe next time.
Yes. Thank you very much.
I think that's it for this one.
Thank you for all for watching.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.